Ah, shit. Here we go again.
So, we in the cell. Now, I already talked to Amanda, and I'm losing my mind because Matumbo keep calling JR phone. JR not answering it because he's holding it over the bunk like this down over my head to let me know, hey, you trying to answer that? And I'm like, man, she's not her yet. So he forwarded. Matumbo called again, he forwarded. So about the 8th time, he answered, oh, where's the big noonie? He said, he's sleeping. Oh, I'm just trying to find out. Oh, have you talked to Amanda yet? Have you talked to the CEO? I need to know what is going on with Doug. JR said, man, you act like y'all go together or something. No, we don't go together. I don't want to do the gay with him. But JR, he is my cellie. I don't want nothing to happen to him either. And he makes a damn good spread in the Bombay. And now I am jittery because I need a Bombay and I don't know how to make it on my own. And I need the dog to make the Bombay. I don't want nothing to ever do the dog. Please, oh God, nothing to ever do the dog. No. JR hung up in his face. So he said, say, man, call Amanda right quick. So, I raised up, I called her. She out, she said, hello? I said, you ain't made it yet? She said, yeah, I'm right now. I said, where you at? She said, I'm in the infirmary. I said, okay, so what's going on? She said, they getting him ready. They finna take him to an outside hospital. He lost a whole lot of blood, so they finna take him to an outside hospital, so they can do further, work on him. I said, well, is he all right? She said, well, he unconscious. He's unconscious. His heart is beating. We do got a heart signal on the monitor, but he's unconscious. He hasn't said anything. He hasn't moved. He hasn't done nothing. So they finna get him to an outside hospital. Y'all, they already had him on a ventilator, so that's why he was breathing. So I said, all right then. So, about 20 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by. We heard a door pop. I go to the window, I look down, I can see her coming through. She walk past, she do like that, like, wait a minute, I'm gonna holler at you in a minute. She go upstairs, I see her go in the booth, she pop Matumbo door. So, when she pop Matumbo door, I could look down and see Matumbo kind of getting up, kind of walking, to the door to see what's going on. She opened the door, and she's talking to Matumbo, at the door. And Matumbo sitting real big because Amanda's only about 5'3", y'all. So Matumbo 6'5". So, Matumbo is looking down at her. And, he nodding his head. He nodding his head, chest about like that wide, y'all. Shoulders about wide, arms just jacked. Big 8-pack. You can see it through his shirt because he wore them tight shirts, 2 little shirts all the time. Because he like to rip his shirt off when he finna fight. So he's standing over her and he, like nodding his head and then he do this, like that. And then he do this while he's standing up, and she's patting him on his shoulder. Then shaking his head. No, that's all I could hear and make out, and that's what I could see from there now. So he turn around and go off in his room, and then she look up and she go and she pop me and JR though. And, she come to the door and, she said that she had just told him, what was going on. We might need to go talk to her. JR looked at me and said, I ain't doing that. He said, that nigga's too big to be acting like that. But y'all, Matumbo, he really had a heart. Let me tell y'all Matumbo backstory. Yes, Matumbo is free now, today, 2025. Matumbo has a wife. Matumbo has about 4 kids right now. He's not on that multiple wife things or beating his woman. He's not a cab driver. The typical things that you would think, Africans would do. He loves his wife. He loves he has 3 boys and a girl and a daughter. His daughter, I believe she's 14. 14. I think it goes like 14, 11, 9, and 8. You know, that's the ages of his kids. He works as a factory worker, you know, Monday through Friday, some type of glass warehouse in Garland. And he does security on the weekend at Love Field. You know, so Matumbo is doing all right, y'all. He's doing all right. You know, I've been wanting to get the real Matumbo on the show, you know, but he works so much, you know, he don't feel like it has to be worth him, you know, like it has to be worth him coming. You know, so y'all, you know, y'all make sure y'all start donating to that cash out. You know, he ain't asking for much. He said he'll come on the show for $250. You know, so y'all make sure y'all just little by little start hitting the cash out the best y'all can. 1s, 5s, 10s, and a lot of 20s. You know, y'all do that for your boy Big Noonie. So I can start getting Matumbo, get JR, you know, get Lil J. You know, get a lot of people up on here to tell their story. You know, so y'all can hear, you know, y'all can see these boys and see we was the real deal up in there, man. We was the real deal. We didn't have to join no gang because we ain't join no gang on the street, so we ain't join no gang in the prison. We didn't have to be with a whole bunch of niggas and act bad in front of a whole bunch of niggas like you young punks out there do nowadays. Y'all think because y'all in a clique, that's what make y'all tough. Nah, what makes y'all tough is being able to stand on your own 10, being able to handle your own business without no help. You ain't got to jail a nigga all the time. That's what these young niggas think. If they ain't pulling out the pistols, they got to jail you because they scared to take a whooping. Hey, man, you going to win some, you going to lose some. Everybody is not trained to fight like me. Or certain people that's been trained in the boxing world, the MMA world, whatever. These are trained fighters. That's why we can get out there, analyze the fight before, during, and after the fight. And that's how we already know what we going to do, and we do what we say we going to do, and we execute it and we win. Now, instead of y'all trying to go get into some martial arts or go to the army or get into some boxing or something like that, y'all want to pick up a gun or y'all want to jank. And that playing slap boxing y'all be doing, if y'all ain't really hauling off and slapping a nigga, you know, blocking, weaving, you know, dodging, pow, slapping one, pow, back slapping, pow, kissing with a left. Y'all ain't really doing none of that. Y'all ain't doing nothing. Y'all out there playing and that'll never work. Y'all need to know what it's like to get hit. Y'all need to be in a real hit situation. And then you'll really know how you gonna respond and react when somebody tap you across the face, you know, with a little bit of that power. But anyway, you know, so he didn't, you know, he got kids, you know, he got a family now. You know, he's doing pretty good for himself. And you know, I want to get him on her, but people got to be compensated, y'all. So y'all make sure y'all hit that cash out. Heaven's Way 777. That's HEAVENSWAY 777. You'll know it's my cash out because you will see my picture with my mask on, of course, and you will see Looney Tunes as well. So you'll know that's me. Y'all go ahead and show love. Show love. You know, for real. Y'all, you know, bless the cash out. I appreciate all of you who've already hit the cash out. I don't care what it was, $15, $20, $30, $5, $10, $1, $2, $3. I don't care. I'm not greedy. I'm not on her begging for money. And I'm not on her trying to take all y'all. Whatever y'all do for me, I appreciate it. But y'all just continue to show your boy love in that cash out. Heaven's Way 777. Heaven's Way 777. But you know, so you know, he doing good in his life right now. You know, but when he was young, you know, he was molested. He made a vow that it would never happen again. He made a vow it would never happen to him again. That's why he started lifting weight. That's why he started getting bigger. When he committed the crimes that he had committed in Dallas and ended up getting sentenced, you know, to them 11 years in the penitentiary, you know, he thought his athleticism, you know, would get him out of a lot of trouble. And it really would have if he always had enough space to do that capoeira. When you're doing capoeira, you have to have room The only way he would have been able to use capoeira officially is if he was in the day room fighting, or he was in the or he was outside on the yard. Being caught up in a cell sometime and 2 or 3 dudes, you know, it ain't really nothing you can do at first. This is what caused him to get bigger like he did. You know, because, you know, one day some people caught him slipping. You know, they thought they was going to treat him bad and do him wrong, you know, because he was the foreigner. They was laughing at how he talked. He was oblivious to a lot of things. He didn't just know how our culture was, even though he had been in the United States since he was like 12 or 13. He still didn't understand our culture because his people was keeping him, you know, in that, you know, like culture. When he ended up, you know, losing, you know, his parents and his mom couldn't take care of him, he had to go into foster care. And, you know, that's when a lot of the molestation and stuff happened while he was in foster care. You know, and it's just like when things like that happen to you, people know. You know, people can look at you and kind of tell that, you know, you was a victim. And then they try to prey on you again and make you a victim to them. Because it's in your eyes, it's in your walk. You know, it's not in his talk because you couldn't tell. But, you know, in his emotions, you could tell. You could tell that, you know, he had been done like that. So, you know, he was having some ordeals with some people, you know, and he kept on telling them, you know, like, oh, look, I don't joke around like that. I don't do those kinds of games. But he would laugh, and he was only laughing because he was nervous. You know, and the dude took that as if, you know, he was low key. He wanted it. So, you know, some individuals ended up catching him, you know, in the cell one day. You know, they beat the hell out of him, and they all took turns on him. And when they took turns on him, they thought he was going to wake up, and he was just going to be 100% Fruit Loops, and everybody was just going to pass the African. That ain't what happened. When Matumbo woke up, he trained more. He did more push-ups. He did more sit-ups. He did more squats. He lifted more irons. He did more pull-ups. You know, he began to do more. He began to eat more. He began to get bigger and rock harder. Started defining his body. He's still built like that to this day. He's ripped completely. She's shredded, y'all. He's shredded. You know, and he continued to do that. And then strange things started happening around the cell. They went in one person's cell. His whole throat was slit. Looked like he could talk through his neck. Like his head will flop up and down like this if he was still alive. They don't know if that was Matumbo, but we kind of got the idea when we heard the stories. You know, the next dude, they found him in the shower, sitting down on the floor. His intestines was ripped out and wrapped around his neck, and his cucumber and his marble sack was stuffed in his mouth. The other dude, they found him in the washroom. He was a short, little, slim, skinny dude. They found him in the washroom. He was stuffed in the dryer. Both of his eyes was gone, and his tongue was cut out of his mouth. And he was in the dryer. And then the fourth dude, they found him in the mop closet. The mop stick was broke. They found the rest of it shoved all the way up through him. It went in his anal canal, and it was pushed all the way up through, and it was sticking in his throat. That's why his head was up so good and stiff. And then it was broke off in him. And he had to suffer like that in the wash closet because that hurt so bad, he wasn't finna try to get up and walk nowhere. He just sat there, y'all, and hemorrhaged and bled to death and died. Now, all 4 of these dudes that these situations happened to was the 4 dudes that it was rumored to have did what they did to Matumbo. Now, Matumbo 6'5", 270-something pounds ripped. Probably at his maximum, he probably benching 550, 600, 650 pounds. if you 200 pounds, 100 pounds, something like that, I don't care how strong you is. That if that boy get a hold to you, that jungle monkey, it ain't nothing you can do. So we know. And then, even from what I witnessed or I heard Matumbo can get violent. He can get violent. You have to stay in a calm mind when Matumbo is losing himself in order to defeat him if you want to defeat him. Other than that, if that man get his hands on you, he gonna rip you to shreds. So, we went down there. I went down there because JR didn't want to do it. So I go down there and I start, I knock on the cell and he raised up and he hear wiping his eye. Because, he didn't ever want nobody to know when he was sad. So he wiping his eyes. He put that mug back on his face. And then he look up and he see me. And then he just slumped down again. I said, I already know, man. He was like, look, I don't like the dog. I don't want to do the game with dog. But I don't want nothing to happen to him. He makes the best spreads. He keeps the cell clean. And then he puts this little stuff to make it smell good. Like he take the soap and put it in the sock and beat the sock. And he beat it. And then he said, and he beat the sock. Oh. So I said, what? So he goes in his locker. He pulls his lock out. He pulls another lock out, Doug lock. He drop him in the sock. He stretched the sock out. He tied him out at the end and he swing it. He started doing stuff. Like that. He said, I got it. So, I said, got what? He said, don't worry about it. So, a few more days go by, y'all. They let us off lock. So, when they let us off lock, he's going towards Mustard. The CO knock on the door. He's like, no, it's nothing like that. He said, look here, I apologize for accusing you, of what's going on. He looked at him like, what? You ain't got to apologize for me for nothing. Like that. He said, look, no, I accused you of what happened to Doug. I did not see it with my own eyes. I should not did that. That is not very Christian-like. And then he was like, okay, yeah, you're right. He said, well, hey, no money, no honey, no money. He got to give me my honey. Like that. And then he was walking out, and then Matumbo turned around and I guess it clicked, y'all. He said, no money, give me my honey. Then he looked around, he laughed after them, hey. And then he was shaking his head like, boy, woo! And when somebody do that, that's them reminiscing on something. When he did that, woo! Like that, he was walking out the door. All I seen was Matumbo come up out. He had that sock wrapped around his wrist. And Matumbo, he caught the door before the door closed. He said, oh, what is that you are saying? And he was still walking, but he was talking. Hey, remember, no money, gotta give me that. And next thing you know, I saw that sock in slow motion coming around him like that. Matumbo was swung and came around like that. Bah! Hit Mustard dead in the face. I heard that fool face crunch. Like that. Matumbo didn't miss a beat. When it hit him, bah, it bounced off. Matumbo swung that joker. He was doing like this, like going over his face. Matumbo swung that joker and came up. He shot, dropped it straight there. Y'all heard a crunch again. Matumbo went backwards with it, came around, hit him in the back of the head. Crunch again. That joker went down. Boom! Like that. Matumbo said, no, I guess what you did was give me my honey. And he turned around and he stuffed it back in. So see, what I'm telling y'all, watch, mind your own business, leave people alone. Don't brag when you do something. If you're going to be in this penitentiary, man, program in your own world. Do what you do in your own world. But if you don't commit crimes, then you ain't got to worry about being in a situation like this, now do you? Mustard had this coming. Matumbo ain't going to get in trouble, y'all. They ain't gonna do nothing to Matumbo. They scared of him. You know, so once again, somebody fell victim. Doug didn't die, y'all. You know, Doug never came back, though. You know, they got he stayed in the hospital for like 3 months. They brought him back to our infirmary. He had to stay another 2 weeks, and then he was transferred. That hurt Matumbo's heart, y'all. Matumbo was sad for a long time. Once again, I want to thank y'all for listening. You know, I appreciate y'all tuning in again with me today. Before we go, Father God, I just want to pray over the people that's watching. Thank you for bringing them back to me. Thank you for allowing me to come back to them, tell them another story. I appreciate you working miracles in everybody's life, no matter what their needs are, no matter what they're longing for, Lord. You provide in every way. Provision, prosperity, peace, protection. In the mighty name of Jesus, thank you. Amen and amen. Your boy Big Looney Tunes is out.
For my people out there that still like to read books, check this out. I was reading this book called 3 Warriors in Babylon, Volume 1, right? This book is about 3 young fictional characters who see a lot of evil in the world until they find a box at the bottom of a lake that houses the key of solving all the world's problems. The characters find a mysterious book inside this box, and they are chosen by God. And this God trains and teaches them methods to overcome sex traders. This is a major issue in the world, y'all. So this book is about encouraging others to stand and fight against these type of illegal activities. Y'all make sure y'all check this book out. I'm gonna have the link pinned at the top of the comment section. It is on Amazon, so y'all make sure y'all go check it out, right? Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hype the video, and share the video. To watch my exclusive videos, you must become a member. I'm gonna have the members link pinned at the top of the comment section. Have you sent your weekly donation to support the Donta Show Network? If not, that's okay. I got you. We are now accepting Cash App, Zelle, and PayPal. All gifts and donations are highly appreciated. If you are trying to reach me for business opportunities, I'm going to have my contact information pinned at the top of the comment section. If you got a paranormal story or a horror story that happened to you or somebody else and you're willing to come on camera and share that story, make sure you contact me. I'm gonna have my contact information pinned at the top of the comment section. But you must be willing to come on Zoom or StreamYard. Make sure y'all subscribe to my other 2 channels, my paranormal channel and my reaction channel. Also, get in contact with me if you need your business, your book, your social media channel, a product, your brick and mortar, whatever it is that you need promoted, get in contact with me. My contact information will be pinned at the top of the comment section and in the description. My Instagram and Facebook and TikTok channel will be in the description also. Until next time, take care.